Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Matt here from pianoblog.com. I hope you're doing great. Today we're going to talk about spot practice. What is spot practice? It's just what it sounds like. It's working on a very specific spot in music, either learning it or fixing something, fixing a technical or a musical element, and then incorporating it back into the larger context of the music. So spot practice is one of these things that it sounds simple, the idea of it is simple, and no one likes to do it because it's less fun. Well, it's not less fun, but a lot of people don't like to do it because it's way more fun to just play through the entire piece from beginning to end. You get to feel like a rock star and you're just kind of enjoying playing it. And maybe ignore those spots that you know need work, right? Or it's a lot more fun if you're just starting a piece out to kind of try to sight read it from beginning to end, but not really sit down and drill specific spots or really learn things as quickly as you might otherwise be able to. And the fact is, if you do spot work, if you incorporate this into your practice and it becomes sort of a bread and butter element of your practice, that you're going to learn a lot more quickly. So I wanted to give you one example of spot practice that I've been doing actually today. And it's in the C major fugue from Bach's, the second book of Bach's Weltüberklavier. This is the theme. And it goes on and on. It's a really fun piece to play from beginning to end because it just kind of keeps going. It's very happy. There's a lot of passage work. The problem though, of course, is I was doing that, but there were some sections that needed fixed, and I just was never getting to them. So one section like that was, there's a two-part counterpoint that, a section that's, and I had learned in my left hand, I had learned a fingering that really I don't think was particularly optimal. I was kind of getting a little gnarled up when I got to this section. I was getting my fourth finger on the F sharp, if you can see it there. And it just was a little bit of a weaker hand position, and I was getting kind of caught up. And what I found was better was 3-1-3. So my third finger would get to the F sharp. Now that seems like nothing, and this is a good example of, as I was playing through it, like that seems like nothing, right? It's just fourth finger, third finger, who cares? But when I honed down on it, because every time I played through that, I felt a little more uncomfortable, especially in a piece like Bach, something by Bach, or something that kind of keeps going like this, that little change in fingering makes a world of difference in my comfort and my ability to play the piece. So what I had to do here is some spot work. So I went to this section, and then I was very, very conscious and very concentrated about 3-1-3. Simply corrected the fingering, put the new fingering. I already knew the notes, so don't get the sense that I was just sight reading this. I already kind of knew the piece. Okay, 3. And then after I kind of felt comfortable there, I put it in a larger context, maybe a couple measures together. Right? And then I put my right hand in. As I'm doing this, the entire time, very, very conscious about what I'm doing. You know, I'm not just kind of thinking about what's for dinner or what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm very conscious about, okay, here's my new finger. You know, if I have to, I slow down, pause here, all the sorts of techniques and practice that we've talked about in other videos to incorporate that new fingering. And then I went back. Right, so I put it in a larger context. I go back a couple measures. See if I get my third finger there as I'm coming into it from a larger context. And what you're going to find, kind of the mental element of what's going on here, is it's sort of like you want your subconscious to be throwing up the new program, the new fingering, the new technical change, the new musical element, whatever it is that you're working on. And you're going to find as you add context that sometimes your subconscious does what you want it to. It throws up the new finger and it's very easy. But sometimes it doesn't. Like the old habit wants to come back in. And so what you have to do is you go back, you're adding it into context. And as you get to the spot that you worked on, you have to really pause or think or be very conscious that you're kind of loading up that new programming. And then you come back the next day or the next practice session, And you kind of go through the same process. You don't necessarily have to do that spot work, but you play it maybe more in context and see what happens as you get there. Does your subconscious throw up the new material, or do you kind of try to slide back into the old habit? If you do that 1, 2, 3 practice sessions in a row, you're going to find that that spot, first of all, it becomes corrected, but it becomes way stronger. I've heard it said, and I don't know if it's true, that if you break a bone, for example, when it heals, that spot where it heals is actually the strongest part of the bone. I have no idea if that's actually true, but I like the idea of it because it's sort of similar with the spot work. What was at first the weaker spot in your music becomes very often the strongest spot because you've really focused and worked on it. Now, this is maybe a more advanced piece, but you can use this at all levels. I mean, in fact, when you're just starting out, it should be one of the predominant ways of practice that you do. In my beginner piano lesson courses, for example, linked here in this video, when we learn Ode to Joy, this melody. We build it up in essentially what is spot practice. You know, for example, we learn, I'm of course abbreviating, but we learn a lot of things at the beginning, but we learn, you know, maybe just the first few notes of the piece. Very slowly how to practice those, and then how to put those into it with the next measure. And we do that all as spot work. What I don't do is I don't throw at the new beginner students, or you if you decide to take the lessons, I don't just throw at you like, okay, here's Ode to Joy, go for it, right? Because you're overwhelmed and it's not fun, and you just don't learn as quick. You always feel you're always reinforcing a feeling of, oh gosh, this is hard, I feel frustrated, I'm tense, like I'm not learning this. And you want to get away from that. You don't want to build that in, no matter what level you're at. It's the same thing with a piece, with a more advanced piece. As I'm playing through this, if I haven't done that spot work, what I'm experiencing, whether I know it or not, when I get to that section is something akin to like, oh man, here comes the section I'm not quite sure about. I hope I get through it. And that's an awful thing to be reinforcing, because you can imagine if you've practiced that way, especially if you get into a more high pressure scenario like a performance or something, that can really be a problem, because you're getting that spot, you're thinking, here comes like the section I don't know as well. So this sort of spot work, you know, incorporated with some other techniques that we've talked about in other videos, can also be a really great way to make sure you feel a little more confident going into performances. So I hope that you find that helpful. Like I said, it's not just technique here. We talked about fingering, but you know, also if you're working on a musical element, for example, sometimes I'll record an entire piece and then I'll take notes like, oh, here I want this to be a little bit louder, or here I want to phrase this in this way. Then I can take those notes and go back and do that same sort of spot practice. So musical elements, technical elements, all stages. This should really be a very big part of your habitual practice routine. And if it's not, you know, think about incorporating it, because I think you're going to find that it really makes you into a more advanced practicer, that you learn more quickly, and that the overall experience, while it might not be as fun to do that kind of detailed work, the overall experience is way more gratifying if you can incorporate this sort of spot work in. So I hope you find that helpful. Again, if you like this sort of content, make sure that you leave a comment or a question. I love to hear this, read those comments and answer more questions below. And also I have my free technique lessons, my free beginner piano lessons that are linked to here, so you can take a look at those if you want. And of course, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy practicing, everybody.